Can he stack another game on top of another game on top of another game?
Well, I think the other thing is, too, it shows that Shedeur Sanders earned that opportunity.
Sure.
Because let's be honest, it wasn't in the Cleveland Browns' best interest to elevate this fifth-round quarterback. You drafted Dillon Gabriel in the third round. You acquired two veteran quarterbacks in the offseason. So he had to earn this opportunity.
When it comes to Shedeur Sanders, I'm just of the mindset that he has not been put in the most ideal of circumstances to succeed. And I don't think that's by accident. And I just think it would be best for him.
I don't believe it's pressure. I believe it's opportunity. I believe it's privilege and all things that he earned through his play, and not only his play, through his leadership, through his actions in every post-game press conference, through the things that he's said and the way that he's conducted.
The Cleveland Browns just witnessed something they haven't seen in years. A fifth-round quarterback putting up 300-plus yards and 3 touchdowns. A rookie making plays that neither Deshaun Watson nor any veteran on that roster could deliver this season. Shedeur Sanders just joined Baker Mayfield as the only rookies in Browns history to eclipse 350 passing yards with 3 touchdowns in a single game. That's elite company. That's franchise-altering performance. But here's where it gets absolutely wild. Right when Shedeur is turning heads, stacking impressive performances, and giving Cleveland fans something they haven't had in years, hope, Stephen A. Smith drops a bomb that nobody saw coming.
I don't want him in Cleveland. I don't trust him in Cleveland.
Stephen A. doesn't trust Cleveland Browns, and he's not alone in thinking that Browns organization might be setting this Shedeur up for failure. Comment King Shedeur if you love Shedeur. Like this video if you want to see Shedeur win. Let's break down what's really happening here, because this isn't just about one hot take. This is about the future of a franchise that's been searching for answers at quarterback since the day they came back into the league. This is about a young man who's fighting against the odds, proving doubters wrong with every snap, yet facing an organization that never really wanted him in the first place.
The Browns had Dillon Gabriel rated above Shedeur Sanders in the draft. And these people are going to keep their job? And they're going to get to draft the next quarterback?
Think about this for a second. The Browns drafted Dillon Gabriel in the 3rd round. They brought in 2 veteran quarterbacks during the offseason. They had a plan, and that plan didn't include Shedeur Sanders becoming their franchise savior. He was a 5th-round pick, an afterthought, a developmental project at best. But sometimes the football gods have a twisted sense of humor, and sometimes the guy nobody believes in becomes the guy nobody can ignore. Ryan Clark laid it out perfectly during the debate. The Browns weren't looking to elevate Shedeur. They had options. They had veterans. They had a higher draft pick in Gabriel. But Shedeur forced their hand. He earned every single snap he's gotten, and he's done it in a way that's impossible to dismiss.
You talk about the uneven play. There were signs against the Las Vegas Raiders that were things we hadn't seen from either quarterback that played prior or previously for the Cleveland Browns.
Against the Las Vegas Raiders, Shedeur showed flashes of something special, things the Browns hadn't seen from any quarterback on their roster. When Shedeur went head-to-head against the #1 overall pick, he outplayed him against a better defense in a higher pressure situation. That's not luck. That's not a fluke. That's a young quarterback announcing his arrival.
I don't believe it's pressure. I believe it's opportunity. I believe it's privilege and all things that he earned through his play, and not only his play, through his leadership, through his actions in every post-game press conference, through the things that he's said and the way that he's conducted.
But Stephen A. isn't buying it, and when Stephen A. speaks, the entire sports world listens. His take wasn't just controversial, it was deeply personal.
When it comes to Shedeur Sanders, I'm just of the mindset that he has not been put in the most ideal of circumstances to succeed. And I don't think that's by accident. And I just think it would be best for him.
Stephen A. acknowledged everything Shedeur has done. He recognizes the talent. He sees the improvement. But he also sees a toxic environment. He sees resistance. He sees an organization that's never fully embraced this kid. And he believes that's a recipe for disaster.
I don't want him in Cleveland. I don't trust him in Cleveland.
Stephen A. made it clear. He wants Shedeur to ball out, put up numbers, show the league what he's capable of, and then get the hell out of Cleveland. Trade him, let him flourish somewhere else, somewhere he's wanted, somewhere he's celebrated rather than tolerated. Now, let's talk about what's at stake here. The next 4 games aren't just games for Shedeur Sanders. They're an audition. They're a statement. They're potentially career-defining. Dan Orlovsky laid it out perfectly.
The Browns had Dillon Gabriel rated above Shedeur Sanders in the draft. And these people are going to keep their job, and they're going to get to draft the next quarterback?
That's a rare window for a 5th-round pick. Most 5th-rounders are fighting for roster spots. They're praying for garbage-time reps. They're hoping to stick around as a backup. But Shedeur, he's got the opportunity to cement himself as a franchise quarterback in a 4-week sample. That's unheard of. That's lightning in a bottle. But here's the brutal reality that nobody wants to talk about. Even if Shedeur does everything right, is Cleveland the right place for him? This is a franchise that's been a quarterback graveyard for 2 decades. This is an organization that gave Deshaun Watson $230 million guaranteed and watched him become one of the worst investments in NFL history. This is a team that cycled through Baker Mayfield, turned on him, and now watches him thrive in Tampa Bay. The Browns don't just have a quarterback problem. They have a culture problem. They have a development problem. They have a trust problem. And that's exactly what Stephen A. is getting at. It's not that Shedeur can't play. It's that Cleveland might not be capable of nurturing what he could become. Too much resistance, too much baggage, too many questions about whether this organization genuinely wants him to succeed, or whether they're just stuck with him because their expensive veterans failed spectacularly. Mina Kimes brought a fascinating perspective to the debate. She acknowledged it's incredibly difficult for a quarterback not taken in the 1st round to have conversations about ideal circumstances early in his career.
From him, I want to see linear improvement because that's what I saw this last week. I saw accuracy, willingness to throw over the middle of the field, and perhaps most importantly, a willingness to play on time.
The stats tell a compelling story. 60 catches, 727 yards, 5 touchdowns. Those are solid numbers for a 5th-round rookie thrust into action mid-season. But stats don't capture everything. They don't illustrate the dropped passes by receivers. They don't illuminate the pressure he's facing with a patchwork offensive line. They don't reveal the weight of playing for a franchise desperate for relevance. And speaking of pressure, let's talk about what's coming next. This weekend, Shedeur faces one of the coldest games in Soldier Field history. Wind chill below -10 degrees, frozen fingertips, footballs feeling like rocks, a hostile environment against the Bears. This isn't just another game. This is a test of toughness. This is where boys become men in the NFL. Can Shedeur handle it? Can he maintain his accuracy when he can barely feel his hands? Can he make the throws that matter when the conditions are working against him?
And Shedeur Sanders outplayed him. And so now you look at this 4-game stretch. I don't believe it's pressure. I believe it's opportunity. I believe it's privilege and all things that he earned through his play.
Ryan Clark made an important distinction during the debate. He doesn't see Shedeur's situation as pressure. He sees it as opportunity. And there's truth in that perspective. Not every 5th-rounder gets a legitimate shot to be a franchise quarterback. Most wash out. Most become camp arms or practice squad fodder. Shedeur has been given a gift, even if it came wrapped in dysfunction. The next month will define everything. 4 games, 4 opportunities to prove he belongs, 4 chances to show Cleveland and the rest of the NFL that he's not just a feel-good story or a product of desperation. If Shedeur continues his upward trajectory, if he stacks quality performances, if he handles the brutal Chicago weather and whatever else gets thrown at him, the Browns will have a decision to make. Do they embrace him as their future? Do they build around him the way they should have built around Baker? Or do they view him as trade bait, a valuable asset they can flip for draft capital to chase the next shiny object? Stephen A's perspective cuts deep because it's rooted in protection. He wants Shedeur to succeed so badly that he'd rather see him succeed elsewhere than watch Cleveland squander another young quarterback's potential. That's not hate, that's love. That's recognizing that sometimes the best thing for a talented player is an escape route from a dysfunctional situation. But here's the counter-argument. What if Shedeur is the one who finally breaks the curse? What if he's different? What if his story becomes the redemption arc Cleveland fans have been desperately waiting for? What if, against all odds, he's the quarterback who brings stability to the most unstable position in football? The next 4 weeks will give us answers. They'll tell us whether Shedeur Sanders is ready for this moment. They'll reveal whether Cleveland can get out of its own way long enough to nurture young talent. They'll determine whether this improbable story has a fairy tale ending or becomes another cautionary tale in the factory of sadness. One thing's for certain, the entire NFL world will be watching. Shedeur Sanders is no longer just a fifth-round pick trying to make a roster. He's become the most fascinating quarterback story of the season. A kid who wasn't supposed to be here, facing an organization that didn't want him here, proving game after game that he deserves to be here. And whether Stephen A. wants him out of Cleveland or Ryan Clark sees unlimited opportunity, the truth is simple. Shedeur Sanders is writing his own story, one frozen throw at a time, one clutch drive at a time, one statement performance at a time. The debate rages on, the analysts argue, the fans take sides, but on Sunday, when the wind is howling and the temperature is brutal and the lights are brightest, none of that matters. It's just Shedeur Sanders versus the elements, versus the doubters, versus history itself. And something tells me this kid wouldn't want it any other way.